So about Shadowbreak.
Yeah, you stopped for a bit.
I did. Because we got on the manscaping
Yikes.
side conversation. Yeah, yikes. Oh, you don't... Is that back there?
Sure, that way.
You just charge it on the table for a bit, and then when we need it, you can grab your phone. So anyway, the story's fucking amazing. Like, again, I'm almost nowhere in it.
Isn't it kind of Final Fantasy fare, or is it like... So here's the thing. I'm kind of... when it comes to RPG stories, I do find Final Fantasy to be very, like, I've been playing Final Fantasy 15, and it tends to be very epic and whatnot, but I'm a BioWare bitch.
Final Fantasy 15 sucks, story-wise, compared to, like, the entire rest of the series.
I know, but I have heard, but I don't know how well other games do the party dynamics thing that I'm a huge slut for.
Okay.
Like,
I see.
Like, I would much rather have a smaller cast of, like, characters with tons more dialogue for each of them.
Right, and FF15 tries that, but 15, like, you have to explicitly go do these, like, random side things, and, like, the thing is that you only get the extra dialogue stuff in 15 at, like, campfires out in the wild, but...
Right, but
those are lower XP gains than the stuff in town, so, like, why would you ever do that unless you're, like, pressed for time?
Well, and also maybe you like those moments. But, I mean, Final Fantasy 15 has been doing, like, an okay job through, like, the animations in combat and out, and, like, Prompto taking the pictures, that's fun. Yeah. And, like, the general, like, it's cool, but there's not, like... I am now speaking directly to you, and we're having a conversation. Right?
Like, you get the bro sense, but you don't get, like, so tell me about your day.
Right, exactly. And...
How did FedEx treat you?
Like, after a major story event, I want to go talk to a character and, like, talk to them about what they're thinking and, like, have a full dialogue conversation. Right. And then, like, romance options and everything, and I'm really...
What, you want a romance Prompto?
He is best boy.
Oh.
Actually, I think the big muscular guy's probably more my type. But what's I'm not a pretty...
Wait.
What? If I had a type, it probably wouldn't be the pretty boy type.
If you had a type in boys, it would be a man. What's his fucking name again?
Oh, I don't remember.
I remember Noctis, I remember Prompto. Who's the bass player?
Then,
kidding?
No, I know exactly who you mean. The guy who cooks, right?
Right!
Yeah! Bass player.
Igneous or whatever.
Ignis, yeah.
Ignis.
And then the last guy's the drummer.
Yeah!
He's clearly the drummer. Because every drummer I've ever seen is always, like, shredded completely. Because it's like, I can just keep the beat up. I don't need to do anything.
You have to use your whole body to drum, so that's why that happens. Like, you never see a fat drummer.
My body is a temple of rock! Yeah, so, point being, Final Fantasy tends not to deliver on that from what I've seen. And so its stories are really epic, but I love them combined with, like, character interaction, and I don't know if 14 will scratch that itch for me.
No.
Yeah. Which is fine.
They're MMO NPCs outside of cutscenes, so, like, there are some side quests that might be able to, like, satisfy that a little bit, but I don't think it really will. And definitely, as an MMO, it doesn't really follow the same sort of path, I want to say, as a standard RPG, or JRPG even.
Because there's not major world events that affect the whole world and then everything's different afterward. It's because you still have to be able to go back to that city for that vendor and whatnot.
Yeah, and we've had that discussion before.
Yeah, but so you've been enjoying the story.
Hell yes. Shadowbringers, I think, has the best story content that I have encountered so far in the whole game. Which is saying something because I absolutely loved the first expansion.
Would you say it's a story that... Could I, like, buy a skip up to it? And just...
You would not understand the importance of everything that's being discussed in it if you did the story skip.
No, that's fair.
I understand, and I, like, had that thought this morning of, like, if I want Matt to experience how great this story is, I honestly can't let him skip the stuff before it.
Like,
the thing is...
No, I totally get it. Like, Cade dying has no impact if you haven't played 2 full games
right,
up
and
to that
enjoy
point.
his character.
Right, and, Taken King, all that stuff.
It's not just that. It is that there are, major reveals in this expansion that you probably guessed were major reveals from the E3 demo, and people's just, stunned silence in reaction to the trailer that they showed at the Square Enix panel.
Oh, really?
I know you watched the Square Enix panel because you commented on Final Fantasy VII.
Remake, yeah.
Yeah. After they showed the Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers trailer there was just, 10 solid seconds of nobody saying anything whatsoever, no reaction, then just one dude in the audience goes, "Holy!" and that's it. But
and then they cut.
I will tell you, the Final Fantasy fandom on Twitter was in a fucking uproar after that. Because there
was lore reveals.
There were huge fucking lore reveals. Or there's one line that a character said near the end of it that everyone was just what the fuck? Where did that... Oh my god, they've been hinting at this since A Realm Reborn. Meaning, I can't let you skip anything because it's hinted at that early.
Foreshadowing we didn't know was foreshadowing. Love that.
Right.
I love that. I've experienced similar moments actually playing Destiny because the lore in that game is so great, and during one of the opening missions for the Forsaken storyline, actually it's toward the end of that one.
This is D2, right?
Yeah, D2. Okay. It's toward the end of the main plot line for Forsaken. You are charging up this Awoken watchtower, right, trying to get to the top because Aldrin's trying to, invade the Dreaming City, right? And, you don't know that yet. You just know he's going to do something bad with a Shard of the Traveler at the top. I better stop him.
Right.
But as you're charging up this whole time, you've been seeing cutscenes of him having, hallucinations of his sister guiding him, egging him on to do all the evil shit, right? And at one point, you're charging through this pocket of the Ascendant Realm.
Uh-huh.
That has started opening in the tower, and Mara,
okay.
You start hearing Mara's ongoing dialogue with him echoing through that world, and at one point, she said, so it has no impact if you don't know any of the lore, but she says, "Oh brother mine," and that's a huge red warning siren bell for lore nerds. It's just something is very wrong here because that specific phrase is heavily tied to
Isn't that actually very similar to O Bearer Mine? Oh fuck!
The Ahamkara.
Yes!
It's specifically tied to the extinct dragons within Destiny's lore.
That's cool as fuck.
The ones that can grant wishes, right?
Oh shit.
And when she says that, you're like, ah! Because that specific phrase is on every Ahamkara item's description in the game.
Yeah.
It is always fourth wall breaking, and it is always speaking directly to the wielder, and it is heavily implied that even in death, these things have consciousness and will and exert power upon the universe.
Right, and they're directed at you, not the in-game universe.
Right. And so, when you hear that, you realize, holy shit, this is like some fucking hallucination that he's having. It's not really Mara. She's not really dead. That's an Ahamkara.
That's Ahamkara talking to him that way.
Talking to him, exactly. And it's mind blown, because one, they're supposed to be extinct. There aren't supposed to be any living ones. And,
Except you've been wearing some ones,
Well, yeah, they're dead. You hunted
So you think.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's coming to a head.
And so that's just a mind blow. And then, the lead up to the raid, you realize this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're going to go kill the last Ahamkara. And you do, and it's fucking amazing. And I love the design of the Ahamkaras. They're super cool. But
nice. I'll have to look that up at some point because I'm interested in what that is. And that's another thing that in that series they've been hinting at that since Destiny 1, which was how many years ago at this point?
And so I'd say maybe don't spoil me on it, but I can tell that there was probably a similar moment in that trailer when there was a reveal, and I didn't recognize it as a reveal.
There's no way you recognize it.
Everyone who knows is like...
Yeah, that one line like completely changed everyone's perception of the entire world of the game.
Oh, another great example is Warframe.
Okay.
In Warframe,
I don't know Warframe's lore at all, though.
That's fine. Basically, you're a Tenno, you're a space ninja, space warrior. You were sealed away a long time ago, and this AI person woke you up to fight the bad things going on in the system. Fine.
Oh, that's right. They like redid the whole game's campaign to
6 years later, in development time, as in like the game has now existed for like 6 years.
That's where FF14.
They introduced a new campaign story mission called I think it was Second Dream, right?
Okay.
And I don't think you're ever going to play Warframe, so I don't feel bad spoiling this for you.
Go ahead.
But
spoiler warning for anyone listening to the Fancycast right now.
Yeah, listen. If you play Warframe and you haven't unlocked the Second Dream or finished it, and you're actually like listening to this conversation, go play it. Leave right now. It's an unspoken rule. Even people who have completed it, we never say anything about it. Because we never know when we're playing with blueberries. We never know when we're playing with people who don't know. And so, you never use the ability you gain afterward unless you're positive you're playing with people who have played through it.
Really?
Yes. People just do it. Or they try to play it off as like a glitch or something if they accidentally do it.
Okay.
Because what happens is it is revealed. So you go through like this story mission where a high-level enemy that spawns randomly in your missions if you've killed a bunch of bosses to like take revenge on you or something. He gains some power from a mysterious ally and starts trying to track down the source of the Tenno's power. And it's like, okay, what does that mean? It's probably going to be like a generic power generator or something, right? And actually, it's the moon. The moon that has never been on the star map has actually been kept in a pocket dimension this whole time.
You're telling me the moon's haunted?
The moon's haunted! It is haunted.
Every single video game right now, the moon's haunted.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to pull it out of that pocket dimension back into real space in order to keep it safe from this thing. But in the process, you also uncover the true nature of the Tenno. So this whole time, 6 years, you've been playing, leveling up, grinding, unlocking new Warframes, new gear, all that stuff, tricking it out however you want. And then, like, the loading screen in and out of missions has always just been kind of, and now you're here. But really, that was the base of the reveal, in that you come upon a chamber where a casket lifts up out of a pool and opens, and in that moment, your Warframe collapses.
What?
And shuts off. And then a figure drops out of the casket, crawls over to the Warframe, lays its hand on it, and the Warframe wakes up and picks it up. And then you take control of the Warframe again, carrying this figure, but you're not playing as the Warframe. You're playing as the figure controlling the Warframe, and you're shooting like laser beams out of the figure's hand, and you realize this whole time the Tenno have been remote-controlled automatons controlled by these minds asleep in the caskets. You, as the player, were that, directly playing the game from inside the casket. And now you've just rescued yourself, you take yourself back to your ship, and there's a big fight between the figure controlling the Tenno and like the assassin who's coming after you, and you eventually defeat him by taking the sword that he was using that has like this AI companion in it, and he has stabbed the Tenno through, and he just rip it out of your own Warframe and split it in half. and destroy the Warframe in order to destroy his power source. And then he kind of like, blows up. But the point is, you were that character in that casket, and then the game goes into a second character creator.
What?
6 years into the game where you customize your real character.
That's
cool. If you start playing the game today, that is not an opening thing. It will take you 80 hours of gameplay to get to that point.
Wow.
And they specifically put it that far in the game so that it's always the same. Players who started playing at the beginning have that reveal 6 years later. You get it 80 hours later, but it's still a mid-game reveal. It's not a thing that just happens at the beginning. It's something you work toward, and it completely shifts your understanding of how the universe works.
Yeah. Wow. That's it's very much like realizing what the bathyspheres in BioShock.
Mm-hmm.
It's very similar to that reveal in terms of like how you view the world afterward.
Oh, definitely.
How you view your character afterward.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was a really, really fucking cool reveal. But I love it when games manage to do that, where just if you're paying attention to the lore, like a quick reveal will just be like, ah!
Yeah.
I think that's hard to do in games that are kind of more self-contained.
Yeah, and especially games with online multiplayer, it's really hard to make that particularly effective. Like, I think that's something that WoW has struggled with for a long time, is having effective, dramatic moments.
Definitely.
And I think part of that, if I'm honest, is just that Blizzard's story writing team doesn't know how to build up the drama appropriately.
Yeah.
But it's also just that WoW as a franchise and Warcraft as a franchise is built on a certain, like, mode of storytelling, and it doesn't really depart from that.
Which is maybe why I have bad misconceptions about the MMO genre and storytelling in general.
Yeah.
Just because WoW doesn't do much.
WoW didn't get big from its story.
Yeah.
It got big from its gameplay and its encounter design.
Right.
And as a consequence of that and how popular WoW became sort of the
template.
The template.
We don't need good writing, we just need a good gameplay loop. And that's fine, but
when you have good writing in your MMO, it makes a world of difference.
It's even better.
Because we're talking now about these 3 games that all have these crazy dramatic reveals 6 years down the road.
But
it's 6 years in every case.
Yeah, but they're all generally like really good gameplay wise too.
Yes.
Destiny's an action MMO with top-notch FPS gameplay.
Yes. Being made by the creators of Halo, and it shows.
It fucking better be. And then Final Fantasy XIV is probably one of the better, hot a million abilities hot bar type MMOs.
Yeah.
And then Warframe is just like a third person, like, I don't know what you call it, spectacle shooter?
Space Ninja.
Yeah, I don't really know.
You can say Space Ninja with gun, and everyone will be like, okay, I understand.
Yeah, Space Ninja with gun. Unless you play Rhino, then it's lumbering tank with gun.
Space lumbering tank.
Space lumbering tank with gun.
Yeah, with FF14, I'd say like the gameplay is probably not the biggest draw. There's definitely a lot of depth to it for like certain areas in it. Like from what I know of the ninja job, that apparently has
positional,
a whole lot of complexity to it, and just like your attack strings and like how they can diverge.
But it's not like a hack and slash. It's lock on, walk up to creature, begin attack string.
Yeah, pretty much. Where it encounters the most variety is in like the raids and stuff like that. There are specific like instance fights that are just like your party versus one big boy. But that big boy has moves that if you are not prepared and you're not paying attention, you will just fucking die. Yep.
That sounds like a raid to me. That sounds like every raid to me. There's another way to do raids.
Yeah, pretty much.
Destiny has jumping puzzles.
That's exclusively how Destiny handles its raids. Just in, I'd say in WoW and FF14, they telegraph their stuff a bit better than Destiny did for raids.
I think that's part of the appeal of the Destiny raids.
I think so.
Is that the raid mechanics, probably compared to other MMOs, are simpler, but it's because it's an action game where the focus is on FPS mechanics.
Right.
You can't really... and I suppose there's a lack of, like, hotbar abilities where maybe you need to, like, do this special ability at this point, you know, on the map at this specific time. Can't really do that, because what if it's on cooldown and there's only 6 people?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that we don't have supports that speed up cooldowns so that we can guarantee things are up, right? We don't have that. We don't have 8 abilities per character, even though I think you could totally get away with that.
Yeah, whereas like in FF14, there's one ability that I know healers have that's just like put up a big fucking shield around everyone. And like when you see the raid boss like, you know, just sort of like disappear for a bit and then they like come up like, then you go, okay, put the bubble up. Just do it. And everyone will be fine. And then you just heal like fuck.
Heal.
Yeah.
I would like to... I've honestly only ever done the first 2 raids in Destiny, and it makes me sad, because every raid has looked great. Like, and I've watched through every raid, and I'm like, I would love to do this, and I've never had enough.
You just
people.
can't get the people together, yeah. That's
and
the difficulty.
So then I'm like, okay, well, what? Maybe I could try joining a thing, but it's so hard because they haven't been treating it like an MMO, so there's no group finding tools.
Right, which is awful.
And so,
and I'm surprised they haven't like done anything with that yet.
Like, there's third-party LFG stuff.
Yeah, but there shouldn't need to be.
But I don't want LFG either. I want to be in a clan. And
right.
All the tools for finding clans are like crap, and they all cap out at 100 players, and hopefully they'll start expanding on that soon, now that they've decided they are just an MMO, and they're just going to treat it like that.
I have a feeling that they weren't treating it like that because of Activision.
That would be my guess, because Activision isn't in the business of making MMOs.
Right.
And so they didn't want to label it that.
If you look at like any of the pre-release information from Bungie about Destiny, it
all sounds like an MMO.
It all sounds like an MMO, you just in space with guns, you know?
I get the feeling that whenever people make looter shooters like that, they're almost never setting out to do that to start with. Because that seems to be the
talking about Anthem.
Like, because I read the Kotaku article.
Yeah, it's
like,
a fantastic article.
It is. I love that man so much. He's such a good reporter, and I can't believe that. I mean, he did articles just like that for Destiny 1 and 2. It's like, why did this happen 2 times? It's because both times development got rebooted a year out from release, and we slapped it together. Yeah. And it's like, why does this keep happening?
Because publishers like control.
Like, I feel like even though Destiny 2 is now at a point that I would say was even better than Destiny 1 at the end, I still think that it's not the game they started out wanting to make. Like, it's good. It's a good action MMO. I still think that it isn't what they wanted to make the first time.
Right.
Because they kept rebooting it, and then it's like, okay, well, I guess a year out now from D2's launch, we'll just go back to the D1 thing, but we'll make it worse this time because we're trying to shoot for it. I'm pretty sure they've been trying to shoot for, like, an actual open world with, like, dialogue and, like, characters and NPCs and, like, the ability to actually explore an amount of terrain that isn't, like, a loop. But they kept getting, like, not able to do that due to engine difficulties. Because you'll notice Destiny 2 is still instanced, right?
Right.
Like, it's all still maps. Even though you can kind of transfer seamlessly from the overworld map into the dungeon without a load
but it's
screen.
still, like, you have to go through the map.
Right, and you know where the load screens are because you see the title cards. And and so my guess is that they wanted something more, because they were talking about it. They were like, oh yeah, we are going to redevelop our engine so that we can create content quickly and, you know, seamlessly, and we'll be able to plop it down in the world as if there were going to be a big overworld that we could explore.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like every time they've just been like, well, we can't do it because we haven't developed the engine, and that's why I think there's probably going to be a Destiny 3. Even though they are like, yeah, it's an MMO
I'm sure
now.
there will be.
Because they're like, we're going to redevelop an engine, we're going to take as much time as we need, and we're going to make it the way we want, and then
Right.
And then we'll release.
And I think that's where... I think if there is a Destiny 3, that is where we will see where Bungie actually is right now.
I think so, too. Because now we're just in the post development, right?
Yeah.
We're in, like, let's maintain player base.
Yes.
Let's, grow player base in this case now.
Yes.
Because we're back over 1 million, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a post about that on Reddit, actually, and I was like, wow, Destiny 2 actually sprung back? That's actually surprising.
I mean, you would... yeah, because... I mean, it was a complete disaster, right? And so,
yes.
Theoretically, it shouldn't have. But, I don't know, they just did a lot of work.
Yes.
And it took a long-ass time because their tools are slow. Like, I've heard it takes them 24 hours to bake a scene or something.
I heard that as well.
Like, that's insane. And they're still making new stuff and putting it out at a fairly regular basis. And I'm like, but how with those tools?
Right.
I hope they're not crunching themselves to death, which is my fear.
Right.
Even, like, crunch even for post-launch development? That's got to be rough.
Yeah, I think this is sort of zooming out a bit, but I think in the game industry right now, there's a real, like, tension between, like, the balance of, avoiding crunch time and delivering something complete. Because it's hard to have both. We're kind of seeing that with the backlash toward Pokemon right now.
Didn't they say they were delaying it to not burn out their developers or something?
Right, but they also said, like, one of the big complaints is that there's no national dex, meaning Pokedex that contains all Pokemon thus far is not going to be in there. They're just going to be a certain subset of it.
Yeah, Sword and Shield are going to have, like, a curated thing, right?
Right, and that's, like, not atypical for Pokemon, but, like, clearly people are thinking, like, if we have a console game now, let's put the whole dang thing in, and I kind of agree. But the thing is, like, the delay is not going to accomplish that. They released a statement saying, like, we're just not going to do that. They might be in future games, but not this one. And there might be technical limitations for that. There might be publisher limitations for that. It might just be a matter of, like, this is what we had in scope for the project, and now the people are saying they don't like it. Like, we're too far along to change it. But
it's, I mean, for those games, it's kind of a matter of, like, how many animations do we have time to create?
Right.
Like, how many Pokemon are there again?
There will be about 900.
Okay, so we need to have idle, walking, wild animations for all of those?
Attack animations for all of them.
And attack animations that aren't even necessarily tied to that Pokemon's physicality, because Bite is still a ghostly little mouth going like chomp.
Right. But if you look at it, the Pokemon that's using it, though, still makes a movement. Yeah.
Right, and you need 900 of those, too, right?
Right. But it's not like per move, though. What I've noticed in the 3D games is that... 3D is that they kind of split it up into, like, here's a Pokemon's physical attack motion, here's the special attack motion, here's their getting hit motion, because there's that too.
Yep, and of course, I assume occasionally there will be actual special animations for, like, the really special Pokemon.
I assume so, but I don't know.
Like, I assume a legendary in a 3D game will have they'll have a known quantity starting moveset, and, like, maybe because it's the legendary, you can allocate some resources to give them 3 unique animations for each of those moves or something.
It'd be cool if they did that.
I mean...
I have no idea.
I mean, hell, maybe the scope of 900 plus animations is so large that you just can't even afford to single out one Pokemon to have specially animated custom animations for moves. Right,
because there's just so much already.
Right, and so it's like a question of priorities. 3 more animations is still 3 more animations when we're already talking 1,800? No, physical
closer
special...
to 4,000.
That's... How many animators do you have to have? Like, fuck. Like, even if they complete... Let's say you have...
One who subsists on Monster.
Like, if you have a team of... Let's say that it's a really large animation partner. 20 animators.
Okay.
And they can finish... And they can start, finish, and QA test one animation a day. which is already like questionable because like it's got to get bug tested and fitted and like the rig you need to have.
Yeah, because it's not just like, you know, you go into your animation editor, you go hand moves over here, hand moves over here. Cool. It's like you have to model the Pokemon, right? You have to texture that model. Maybe you have to bone the model.
Right. Maybe you already have like the model from a previous game and you're porting it forward and you're like, okay, well wait, now it needs new textures, right?
Right.
Because Sun and Moon can't work in Sword and Shield. There's vastly different processing power, and our graphics, you know, expectations have been updated since then, right? So okay, now we're retexturing. Okay, gotta wait at least a day for the assigned texture artist to get that over to me. Okay, now to structure the skeleton, right? And
it is called boning.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so unfortunate.
I know, it was my favorite thing in college. You bone it so you can animate it. It's necrophilia.
So, but let's be really generous, okay, and assume that they actually can each get one done a day. How many days is that for 20 animators to work through all of the animations that would be needed?
It really depends on the pipeline.
But 984 times 3, we have attack, special attack, and hit, right? No, 4, because they need an idle animation.
Overworld animations.
Okay,
because you can have Pokemon following you now these days.
So that means at minimum per Pokemon per animator, if one animator works on each individual animation for a Pokemon,
right,
it's going to take a single Pokemon 5 to 6 days to be completed.
Yeah.
By one animator. So we're talking 6 complete. So we're talking 6 completed Pokemon animations. We're talking 20 completed Pokemon per week.
Yes.
Then, basically, at that point. If we have a team of 20 animators.
So you divide your 984 by 20, you get about, so that'd be 497. You get about 50 weeks of development.
That's just nearly a year!
Pokemon.
That's nearly a year!
Yeah.
That's a whole year of development time spent by just the animation team.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's mind-blowing when you think about it.
That's assuming that we're getting our numbers right on, like, both the number of animations that are needed and the duration of each animation in development.
But I mean, sure, naturally, but, like...
We can assume we're wrong on those.
We're, like, probably underestimating, though, if anything, right?
Maybe. Again, it depends on the pipeline.
I mean, like, they're curating it, so it's not going to be all 900-something, which is good.
Right.
Because taking a whole year to animate everything... Like, imagine if there's changes to the engine, right? Like, what happens if you need to go back and rework on a bunch of animations you've already done, but it takes a year to get to that point anyway?
Worse. What happens if you have a new hire?
Fuck.
You have to train that guy on all these things, which takes away from development time.
At least one person off the actual dev team.
Yes.
Getting the other person up to speed.
Right.
Oh, how about documentation?
Oh, there's none of that, don't worry.
Oh, okay. For animation? Okay, good.
No, for development, we suck dick at documenting our shit.
Oh, you just don't do it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we suck.
No one will...
And documentation is an ideal that no one quite achieves unless they're, like, really dedicated to it.
Can't you just, like, put it in the comments of the code? In comment code?
You sweet innocent child. I only comment code that's, like, fucking obtuse.
Nice.
Like, if anything, like, the code should be obvious when you look at it what it does. Everything should be named well, it should be structured well, and it should flow in such a way that, like, if I go into this method, I expect to see these things here. No, there they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that doesn't always happen.
How many of your coworkers at work do that, though? When you go to look at their code?
A few.
A few?
Yeah, we have peer code review, which is what you're kind of supposed to do in development. But so like we all pretty much look at each other's code and like we can comment on it, like, you know, move this up to here and make more sense there, or like, will this particular thing cause any issues if we're like not allowing for nulls or something?
Okay.
it's just like all
it's
these...
fine if this goes over my head. Just
as I know. It's just like these little things that like the senior personnel might know, or like even like we have junior developers that will look at senior developers' code, and like A, it's a learning experience, and B, it's also another check. It's another set of eyes on something, and it's a chance to ask questions.
Point being, even just if we just focus on animations alone for a Pokemon game, there is an insane amount of work that has to go into that. We just made up a number based on if they were theoretically able to develop a full Pokemon's animation set in 1 week. As if they don't, like, have weekends. Or days where they don't come into work. Or if they get sick.
Right.
Or if they're hungry one day and can't focus. You know? Like, they're human beings.
Yeah.
And
right. That's the struggle of project management.
Right. And I don't know, it just makes no sense to me to be upset about the delay in a game like that is like we're sure it's gonna come out. Like it's a Pokemon game. Nintendo's not gonna be like, yeah, we're just gonna drop this one.
Right.
Like
right.
You're gonna get your thing. You're gonna get your luxury toy. Kevin. Like Kevin. I don't know. Seemed like the generic, like, you know...
Like, oh, this guy's into Pokemon. His name's Kevin.
I mean...
I see, he's got the baseball cap, he wears shorts, he's ready for Pokemon.
Actually, wait, did I just steal that from Brian David Gilbert's poker rap thing?
I think so.
Oh, right, it was Kevin that, like, made him trade the tangle.
Yeah.
I knew it. My subconscious asshole kid name is Kevin. Just like my asshole soccer mom name is Karen.
Karen, yeah.
They're mirrors.
There's a pattern forming.
Hey, it's not my fault. It's a pattern. Maybe they need to work on themselves. Okay.
Don't let Karen hear that. Anyway, so that's not even accounting for balance.
Right,
which is a whole other nightmare.
Then game design, right?
Yeah.
Now we're talking about like balancing moves, abilities, like
progression. Where are the Pokemon in the world?
Because in essence, Pokemon games are RPGs, right?
Yes,
they are numbers games played out with the Pokemon as your party of adventurers, right?
Yeah.
If we want to go to another JRPG staple, right?
Yeah.
It's really just, these are the people these are the people in your party. This one is like a melee class. This one's a magic caster, da-da-da. And that's backed up, visually and whatnot. But, like, you got a balance for that, too. And...
yeah.
Yikes.
Exactly. So, like, there's a lot that goes into it, and
it's not even like a normal JRPG where you can just be like, there's like 8 people in the party, and I want to take these 4 because they're my faves.
Right.
Right? It's like, here's hundreds. 300 potential party members. Let's balance every well, that's not
just as of Gen 3, it was 300 potential party members.
Right.
And they all have a unique move set. Some of those moves are shared across Pokemon, and that's something, but like...
Bite, tackle, blah, blah.
Right.
But then you get up to higher levels, and,
like, okay, which Pokemon gets Fire Spin? Right?
And then there's all the stats and whatnot, and just, you gotta design all that, and, it's giving me a headache just thinking about it.
Yeah.
I really feel that... I don't know how to do it, because it obviously couldn't be global, but at least here in America, like, they gotta unionize.
Oh, yes, they need to.
Fuck, God almighty, they just need to unionize. This cannot continue. I don't know. Eventually, like, we hear about, like, in BioWare, the Anthem devs, like, having mental breakdowns and leaving the industry, and, like, the gaming industry has the luxury of having a dewy-eyed, fresh-faced batch of new meat every year as they graduate from college and all want to do this fucking job.
Yeah.
And they take it for granted by, like, putting them through the fucking meat grinder, and then people spit out the other side and never want to work in the industry again.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that this is allowed. It's only allowed because of that factory mentality. It was the same back during the Industrial Revolution when unions first, came into existence. Well, we can replace you because there's 18 million people out there who are willing to step up for the pennies that we're offering because there's a limited number of slots available, and, I can afford to lose you. So, okay, bye if you want higher pay. Like, I don't need to pay you more. I can ask, But the developers have the advantage of it being a very highly specialized role.
Like, if you're in the industry, you know other people in the industry.
Definitely.
And that's perfect fuel for unionizing.
And it's also a very highly skilled, highly specialized job. Like, there may be a lot of people out there who want to work in the industry compared to slots in the industry, but all of those people are highly skilled. They're not as easily replaceable.
Right. Because
coding skills are needed, like, literally everywhere these days. So people leave the industry, but then they go on to coding jobs elsewhere, like jobs where you work, right? Software development. Like, that's not... And you don't have to deal with burnout, although apparently sometimes you still do.
Yeah.
But, gaming is so much worse because you're pressured into it, right? And
I think kind of what I wanted to get around to as like a point to this part of the conversation is that delays in production can't really account for all of that. Like, delaying a release, I believe, is the only way to overcome the problem of crunch time. But there's a caveat, and that's funding.
Yeah, the funding runs out eventually.
The longer a game remains unreleased, the less that you have available to pay the people working on the game.
Or alternatively...
And that becomes a problem.
Yeah, or alternatively, the harder it is to make back your budget.
Yes.
Like, even if you have like an infinite sum of money
probably the bigger point.
if you have an infinite sum of money lying in a pocket dimension to pay your employees, you could spend 10 years developing a video game, but then what are the chances that you make your budget back?
Right.
What are the chances that the money you just poured into the project come back to you?
Right, and in video games, that's a very high risk.
Right.
Like, that's why, that's why there's such a stigma for AAA titles in the first place for, like, the past 10 years. Is that, like, your Call of Duties and stuff, they will make their budget back, so they're safe investments. But when you have a new IP, like Sekiro, all you have to go on is that this developer's made something popular before. Maybe this will also be popular?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a safer bet because it's all the same people working on a game that is in the same genre with many similar mechanics, animations, and in the same engine, so there's not going to be adjustment periods, essentially. Right? Everything can just kind of flow, which is nice. Which is why I found it so odd that EA was willing to risk it on Anthem when they had already established that they had trouble with the engine before.
Yeah.
And development of it, and that pre-production had been going on for 5 years with no notice. Like, at that point, why are you not just canceling?
I don't think EA's management noticed.
That's the feeling I got, which was... Because they said something about, in that article, how the vice president or something of EA played one demo of Anthem and was like, this is complete shit. And I'm like, why do you not already know that? It's been 5 years in pre-production. You never saw a gameplay of it before this point?
Well...
Like, you never saw mock-ups? You didn't, know what was going on in the studio at all?
Right.
I don't know, EA. BioWare is one of your cash cows, at least for... I mean, maybe not as much as Madden, because that brings in ungodly amounts of money.
Yeah.
But, why weren't you paying attention? Then he actually... And it's one of the weird things, hearing that EA improved that game by adding the flying back in.
Right.
Because he's like, this... What?
Right. Well, the reason why he said it was shit was that it didn't feel... There was nothing to tell you, this is the game's main thing that you want to do. And when they put the flying in, it was like, this Iron fucking Man. Works. We need this.
Here's an MMO with Iron Man. Done. I'm sold, right?
But that's what you need. Before that, it was just, here's an MMO.
Ish.
Right.
Like, they didn't even know what they wanted it to be. They wanted it to be... It sounds like they wanted it to be instanced missions, but, like, somehow randomly generated.
Yeah.
But also somehow exploration.
And I heard some sort of survival mechanics.
Yeah, and it's like, okay... But, and see, now...
Like, how do you convey that in a demo?
Right. And also... Because survival is one of those types of genres that it's like you don't get the gameplay loop until you've been playing it for 2 hours.
Right.
Like Don't Starve or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, if you play Don't Starve for a 30-minute demo, you're going to walk around, you're going to whack a tree a few times, get some resources, not know how to do anything, and then die when a wolf eats you. It's like...
and you're not going to say, that's fun.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I'm wondering... We're never going to know what the real Anthem was ever going to be. We're also never going to... It's never going to get a chance because the downward death spiral, I think, is coming to a close sometime soon.
Like, yeah. Which is really sad, but inevitable.
And now the fear turns to what happens to BioWare's next game. What happens to Dragon Age 4? Because they're still going with Frostbite. I have no fucking clue why. But maybe it's that, you know, we developed all these systems for Inquisition. Now we might actually have a shot with the engine not being a bitch. You know, maybe that's the thinking. But I don't know. I don't see it turning out well. I don't see anyone trusting them.
If you're having that much of a problem with your tools, you change the tools. Like...
Yeah, for real.
A fucking plumber doesn't come into your house with a shitty wrench and, like, twist it in your sink and say, like, okay, good job, we're good here.
The way I understand
the plumber replaces his fucking wrench.
Yeah. The way I understand it, Unreal Engine takes, like, 5% of your profits. Like, if you use their engine.
Yeah.
Just, like, total.
It's part of the license.
Right, but it's, like, it doesn't seem like a huge amount. I don't know.
It can be.
I guess, but you're still making 95%? I don't know. It's like... It feels like one of those, they were really greedy, rather than... Because I feel like Unreal is so well-developed that if they had tried making Anthem in Unreal, it would have just gone so much smoother. Because they had used it before on every one of their games.
I mean, Dragon Age 2 is in Unreal, right?
I think so. I thought Dragon Age 1 was.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
I really don't.
But, I don't know, were they losing that much on each of those games that they were like, it's worth it to develop an entirely new toolset and a new engine that was built for first-person shooters? Right. I feel like it wasn't. And certainly I feel like the end result backs that up.
Yeah, I don't have a good opinion of where that's going. I'm fearful for BioWare. It's very... It really sucks to have grown up in an era where video games were, like, really hitting their stride, and seeing that, like, all the, you know, titans of old are being brought down by just really poor decisions and poor management. And it's scary to know that I went through school hoping to get into that industry, and now the entire industry is a horror story.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the pit. It's where we throw our devs.
Well, the other scary thing is learning, actually retroactively, that all those games that you loved growing up actually kind of had similar development stories to what you see today, and that for some reason, no one learned any lessons, like, industry-wide, except maybe fucking Naughty Dog or something.
Right.
Who seem to have never had, like, a serious bone-breaking crunch before, and in fact, it's, like, from seeing development documentaries of, like, all of their games, it all seems like everything has gone very smoothly every time. Which maybe is an illusion, but also maybe they have it figured out. I don't know. BioWare apparently, like, had huge scope creep on every Mass Effect game, and had to pull back every time, and we got 2 and... like 8/10 of a great game out of it. 2 and 8/10 great games out of it.
Right.
You know, but at the same time, why were no lessons learned?
Right.
Right?
I mean, even if you go back to, like, the Halo 2 limited edition, its
Halo
Extra
2.
Disc has a documentary about the development cycle, and they talked about crunch on there. and how much crunch sucked, but like, you know, they were in it.
Like, they cut a third of the story or something, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because Halo 2 is by far, I still think, one of the best Halo campaign story.
It's one of the biggest FPS campaigns I've ever seen.
And
even to this day.
And it's great. I think there's a certain amount of, like, okay, let's cut the fat that, like, makes a story better. But like, when you're cutting 33%...
They didn't finish Brutes as a race. And they were integral to, like, the climax of that story.
Right, like, Brutes didn't show up as real threats until, I think, the last 3 missions, maybe?
Yep. Like, they showed up sporadically throughout the game, but it's not until, like
a
the revolution enemies. Within the Covenant.
Right. Like, I think the first time you fight them seriously is right after the Gravemind scene, when Master Chief gets teleported onto the
It's not the Ark. I think it's just another part of Delta Halo, isn't it?
No, it was their city, their flying city. What was it?
High Charity?
High Charity.
Fuck yes!
Yeah! High five on Halo lore nerds.
Ah!
I am fucking hyped for Halo Infinite, even though I should have learned from Halo 5.
Right. I know you. You're forgiven, but you're wrong.
Fuck off. I will be hyped for the things I like. I think they learned from Halo 5. I think they learned.
We'll find out.
The same writers aren't on the project, as far as I know.
Oh.
So it can only go up from here.
That's not true.
It can only go up from here. Halo 5 was a fucking train wreck, okay?
I still never beat it.
You never even finished it? You just sat it down like, I'm done?
Yeah, I don't even remember like what the impetus was for me to leave it alone. I was just like... I stopped and went and played Forza Motorsport.
It was probably Mission 8 where you realized you had played as Master Chief in 2 missions.
Yeah. It was approximately that.
Yeah. Why am I playing as this character that I give absolutely zero fucks about for 90% of the game?
This is, like, way a tangent, but, like, the worst thing for me in that game was just the whole, like, setup of the story, which is, like, the Master Chief is a bad guy. He's a deserter. But, like...
I never thought that was...
We just spent 4 games with him.
Oh, I mean... to me, that's never what the ad campaign reeked of. But I can definitely see how you'd interpret it as that. What I always interpret it as is that Master Chief isn't a bad guy. He's just gone rogue because
he's just misunderstood.
No. He's just like that whole thing from the end of Halo 4, and I loved Halo 4's story personally.
I know.
But that idea of him awakening to his, like, humanity and becoming more of an actual person. Because now, I thought it was really poetic. Like, I was created for this purpose, but now the war with the Covenant is over.
Yeah.
Right? Now I have to find my own meaning, and at first I'm just trying to go back to what I've always done, which is protect humanity, which... does, of course, need to be done,
right?
Because there are still threats, but, like, his purpose in life is gone now, because there's no all-encompassing threat, right? Now it's like, okay, maybe now, like, you just go, like, kill some rebels here, or you go, like, and I thought that is what they were going for, is that Master Chief is seeking out, like, answers for, like
kind of an identity crisis.
Right, and I thought
I know who I am, what I'm made for, what I'm supposed to be doing, but that's done.
So now what do I do?
Right, and
it seemed like, from the very first reveal trailer, with him, like, walking through the desert, he's searching for answers, and he pulls out Cortana's chip, he's looking for... something makes him think she's still out there. And so he's going to look for her. And I thought that was such a good fucking premise. And they fucking ruined it. It could have because they had to justify it with, like, some fucking vision or something that he sees, right? And then he goes off and searches for her. It would have been so much more powerful if he just did it because he fucking wanted to. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
Because that, at its core, would acknowledge the themes of the last game. He makes a human decision to countermand orders to remain doing whatever it is that he's doing because he has a desire that is not tied to his orders anymore, and he doesn't know how to handle it.
Right, Master Chief's character arc within Halo 4 and what it seemed to be setting up for the rest of the trilogy is Master Chief's, first time experiencing individuality since his initial training that took place during the Fall of Reach novel.
Like, I think you and I just came up with a better opening for the game in 2 minutes of thinking than whatever those fucking writers did for Halo 5. Like, I don't know how it was so hard, guys. It took 2 minutes of brainstorming here. Come on! And then they were like, oh, Blue Team will be in it. Fuck yeah! Anyone who's read the books is like, Blue Team!
Yes.
But how do you not open with them? Why are we opening with these fuck nobodies? Right?
Yeah.
Like, it was a cool animation down, like, the side of the mountain. That fight, I was like, these are the Spartans that were described to me in the books, where they're lightning fast, agile, like, walking tanks, but, like, just so fast and speedy with these insane superhuman reflexes, right?
Yes.
Those Spartans in that opening were what was advertised to me in the books, at minimum. But it wasn't Blue Team. Why wasn't it Blue Team? Like, you missed the point, guys.
Yeah.
You missed the point. And now we're back to writing in video games.
Yep.
I think we're going to make this into a podcast.
I think so. I decided like 15 minutes into this discussion that's what we were going to do.
I don't know. It was kind of rambling. We didn't have like a bullet-pointed list of points we wanted to hit. But I think that's okay. But I think we like went full circle in our discussion. We were like, cool story moments. And then we went through like a bunch of other related video game topics, and then we got back to writing in video games. Yeah. You can also do it really badly. Maybe like have a few brainstorming sessions before you start writing your game.
So yeah, last week at the end of that session, I think we just like sat here talking for a while. So I think that's gonna be like Fancycast episode 1. That's what I'm calling it.
Cool.
Fancycast.
Oh, I like that.
And this will be episode 2.
Okay, cool.
And that'll be it.
Do we have like an intro or outro for that?
I don't think so. We can make one.
We're the least fancy.
And this is the Fancycast. Let's not do that.
Let's not do that.
It makes me feel like a fucking, like... What's a better word for someone who's all, like, hoity-toity, like, I'm the best in the world?
Well, I mean, I think
a pompous buffoon.
I think if we tried to structure, if we actually attempted to sit down and have podcast-type discussions, we would fail.
I think you're right. It's better as just, like, natural conversation.
Which means that if we'll need to have, like, an intro that just, like, is musical and then fades into the start of the conversation.
We could do that. Yeah. Do you want me to just, like, come up with, like, a riff or two?
Yeah, just, like...
to play as an intro?
Like, come up with a few riffs that can fade out into the start of the conversation, and then that'll be the intro. That's
it. I could do that. That'll be pretty easy.
And then, like, maybe we can record, then you just, like, come up with, like, a discussion title thing, and then that'll be the title, and you can be like, welcome to Fancycast, episode 1, where we talk about da-da-da. Here it is. Fade into the conversation.
Okay. So then, sort of like a radio thing?
Yeah, and then that way we don't have to think about starting the conversation.
Right, it's just like
we'll come up with it afterward.
Yeah, we're already talking as we're setting up, so we might as well just ride that wave.
Yeah. That's fair. Okay. Alright, but now we gotta get back to Sekiro.
Yes.
Fuck.